his strength behind him is not going to help you, Vali. So she glorifies Ramachandra like this. Nivasa vriksha sadhunam apannanam paragatihi artanam samshayah chaiva yashashascha cha ekabhajanam. Ekabhajanam means he's the only shelter. He's the only abode for these kinds of people. For the sadhus, he is a tree under whom they take shelter. Nivasa vriksha sadhunam. And for those who don't have anything, or those who don't want anything from this world, he is the ultimate goal. Apannanam paragatihi. Then artanam samshayah cheva. But he's also the shelter for those who are in distress. Artha, we hear from Bhagavad Gita. Artho, artharthi, jigyasu, jnanicha. Artha means one who's in distress. For them, he is the samshaya. He is the shelter. Yashashascha, and he is the one who gives them all glory. He gives them his grace. So he is that only shelter. Now, when you say only, we mean exclusive shelter. So if you go to demigods, then the demigods are limited in their exclusivity. If I want, say, 4 things, and if I go to a particular demigod, I might get 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most, but all of my needs cannot be fulfilled by any one demigod. And therefore, the characteristic of demigods is that my devotion is never exclusive. It is always distributed. For this, I want to go to that demigod. For money, I have to take the shelter of, for material prosperity, I have to take shelter of Durga Devi. For a beautiful or handsome husband, I have to take shelter of Lord Shiva. For a beautiful wife, I have to take shelter of Parvati. For knowledge, I have to go to Surya. For all the obstacles, I have to Ganesha, etc., etc. So it's all distributed. It's not exclusive. But Sri Ramachandra, his shelter is exclusive. Anything and everything a person can ever desire in their life can be, will be for sure fulfilled by Sri Ramachandra. And Ramachandra has knowledge, realization, and he can give anything that's within this world and anything that is beyond this world. He always follows the order of his father, and as far as his merits are concerned, he is like the Himalaya, which means all the jewels and the minerals are within him. So therefore, you are not fighting Sugriva, Vali. Please understand, you're going to be fighting Ramachandra. That's the strength you're up against. So let me tell you, I'm not being critical of you. I'm being your friend here. You are thinking Sugriva is challenging you, and I am telling you that it is Ramachandra that is challenging you. Don't go. Okay? In fact, this is the time to not harbor animosity. This is the time to make friendship. If you invite Sugriva and make him the prince, meaning the next king after you, I tell you, your younger brother will remain loyal to you like anything. If you don't, the hostility will continue. But if you invite Sugriva back, you give him the right position, you give him proper respect, he will forever discard any animosity, and he will be a fantastic brother for you. Okay. So Vali, please, as far as Sugriva is concerned, he can be your best asset. And he is, but you may not be seeing it. Please, you take the step, you're the older brother, you take the step of rekindling your brotherhood with him and not continue any animosity. If you love me, you have any slightest regard for my words, and you understand that I love you thoroughly, then please heed my advice. Yadi te mata priyam karyam, yadi chaiva, yadi cha avaishi mam hitam, yachamanaha priyatvena sadhu vakyam kurushvame. Sadhu vakyam kurushvame. Please accept my words as proper sadhu. If you think that I am intelligent enough, if you think I am dear to you, and out of your attachment for me and my attachment for you, please. So when Tara spoke like this, Vali could not take her advice. So before we see Vali's objections, let's consider this a little bit, because this is an important application section. First, let's take Vali as a husband who has a very intelligent wife. In fact, most wives are more intelligent than the husbands. And they have some good advice to give. So Tara's advice to Vali is, and this is practical for us, that when emotions are very, very high by anger or some kind of grudge or revenge, that is not the time to act. Because when emotions are very, very high, our ability to discern and think rationally goes away. And I'd said this previously, that in all human beings, in this case it is Vanara, but in all of us, we have two sides. We have the right brain and the left brain, or we say like a pendulum that swings from one side to another side. On the one extreme is the emotional aspect of our personality, our feelings, both positive and negative feelings, which drive most of our speech and activity. On the other side, extreme is the rational, thoughtful, sort of cold objectivity. On this side is subjectivity. On this side is objectivity. A balanced human being, when we say someone's head is on their shoulders, that they are a balanced human being, we say, oh, they're very balanced, they're mature. The balance and the mature means while the emotions are important and are considered, the objectivity is also in place. Some people are so objective and so necessarily rule-driven that they lose any warmth in their heart. And so they can never get people to come close to their heart, because they're always dealing with this sense of objectivity and coldness, rational, analytical. The ones who are extremely emotional, I'm using the word extreme because I'm dealing with two ends of the continuum here. One who's very emotional, while they are very warm because emotions connect with people, the intensities sometimes makes relationships difficult. And so what is that they sometimes lose objectivity. They lose the ability to see things in a detached, dispassionate way. They're driven by the emotions. But a balanced person has the emotions and has the objectivity to analyze, to understand the situation and to act from it. So in this case, Vali is representing this very, very heightened emotional aspect. And Tara is the one who is bringing the pendulum right to the center by giving a more objective and sobering thought, because she's seeing beyond. When emotions are very heightened, We are not able to see the big picture. We're not able to assess anything beyond what's right in front of our eyes. Tara is the one, her name is also Tara, meaning she's shining like a star. And the shining is that she has so much intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom, which she's giving to Vali. And she's embracing Vali, that don't go. And using part of the emotions as well. If you love me, and if you think that I love you, if you know that I have the best intent for you, then please heed my words. And she is peeling the layers that it is not Sugriva, that the howling that you're hearing is not Sugriva's strength. That's why when the first time Sugriva goes to challenge Vali, Valmiki Rishi doesn't explain or glorify his growling or challenge so much. Why? Because at that time it was Sugriva's strength. Now he has Ramachandra's strength behind him. And so that howling or roaring is so powerful that just by the sound of it, Vali's effulgence is completely diminished. So Tara is saying there is some divine strength behind him. So now is not the time. This is the time to make friendship and get rid of animosity if you want to live. If you don't desire to live, then unfortunately, I knowingly am saying that you will go and this will be the last time. You will never come back home. So it's important to have either a spouse, in this case, wife, but have a wife, or a spouse, if it's a woman, but between the two as a couple, to have this voice of reason and wisdom, extremely important. And on Vali's side, he has this arrogance. I know. First of all, that's an arrogant statement. I know better. Second, he's so driven by his emotions that the immediate gratification of anger in this case, or vengeance or grudge, that he cannot think big picture. He cannot think the consequences of what's going to happen from acting on that emotion right now. And so he's going to refute it. But what's the consequence? Death. In this case, death. In life, we can say that there are consequences that may be irreversible. So Vali, he's very fortunate to have Tara by his side. Then Vali responded back to Tara. He said, "Oh, beautiful Tara, yes, you are shining like a star. And I can understand by your reasoning that although Sugriva is younger to me, he's my adversary, you're asking me to tolerate him. But the great valiant persons never say no to a challenge. I would be considered, as they say in Hindi, namard. I will not be man enough or monkey enough, king of the monkeys enough, if I don't go and accept the challenge." A very, very good principle to remember is when someone challenges us, we should have enough wisdom to know whether to accept the challenge or not. Sometimes it is more wise or wiser to say no thanks than to enter into some unnecessary challenge. Because challenge is just to flex muscles and to know who's better. But it's not required. It's not required if we have the big picture in mind. For example, for us as devotees, the big picture in mind that we bear is we only have this much lifespan. And we may be somewhere in the trajectory where a bunch of lifespan is already spent. Whatever is remaining, we have this opportunity to let our bhakti flourish. Hopefully, going back to Godhead. And in that little time that is there, is certain petty things worth it? Although for one who's so emotionally drawn, Everything that's very close becomes significant, and everything that is farther is not important at this point. However, the idea of being a visionary or far-sighted is to be able to see how my act here has a consequence there. And so Vali is the prime example of who has lost the big picture. He's only thinking, I'm the king, I've been challenged by my rascal brother, and I need to show him his place. I've already crushed him, and not just him, I've crushed Dundubi, this one, that one, Ravana. He's coming back to challenge me so quickly? No. And then Vali has another view of Ramachandra. He says, as far as Ramachandra is concerned, he's not going to harm me because Ramachandra is a very dharmic person. He knows what is virtue. He knows what is dharma. This is not a fight between me and him. This is a fight between me and Sugriva. So, Tara, thanks, but no thanks. Take all the females and go back into the palace. I appreciate that you expressed your love and friendliness and your devotion to me. But Sugriva, who challenged me today, I will completely crush him. Okay, and just the way he's prepared, I will punch him, pull up tree branches and the whole trunks of trees, and with my fists and the tree trunks completely smash him. And it will be so terrible for Sugriva that I don't even know if he will be dead or alive. Okay. I will defeat this Sugriva very quickly and I will come back. Just because of your friendliness, somewhere I think he says, because of your friendliness, I will smash Sugriva, just that I will not kill him. I will leave him a few breaths of life and come back to you. And I'll come back soon. Now Tara has understood that Vali is not going to listen to this advice. So she tightly hugs him because this might be the last embrace. Tam tu Tara parishvajya Valinam priyavadini. One who has good speech, she embraced Vali. Chakara rudati mandam dakshina sa pradakshinam. Rudati mandam. She was suppressing her tears, but circumambulated Vali. Then she sang certain verses and praises of Vali for his protection, and quietly, softly crying, entered back the palace with the other queens of Vali. Then Vali came out of the palace hissing like a poisonous serpent. He was so angry that he was red with anger. He was searching for Sugriva. Where is this rascal Sugriva? And then when Vali saw Sugriva, who was shining in golden yellow color and whose waistcloth was tightened, and he was ready for a fight with some sense of confidence. Sugriva was standing with his chest bloated because now he's ready. Vali, who doesn't like to be provoked, also tightened his waistcloth, accepting the challenge, and went toward Sugriva with his fists upraised. And Sugriva was also standing with his fists upraised, waiting for Vali to come. Then, when they came face to face with each other, Vali, his eyes red with fury, and who's an expert in fighting, warned Sugriva. Hey, Sugriva, my fists are tight and I'm about to smash you. Okay. And when I bring down my fist with all its strength on you, all your 9 lives will go away. I mean, 5 lives. In Sanskrit, it's called Pancha Prana, because there are 5 kinds of airs moving. We only have 1 life, but distributed by 5 airs. So sometimes they're called Pancha Prana. So here, prana is used in plural in Sanskrit. He says all the life airs will vanish from your body. And Sugriva then said, with this fist, Vali, I'll punch you on your forehead and all your lives will go away. So they challenge each other. Kshatriyas, they have to hurl insults at each other to arouse their valor. And now they came close by and started pummeling each other. Sugriva and Vali fighting like anything, and blood was gushing from them like torrents of minerals that come out or exude from mountains. Sugriva was uprooting a sala tree and trashed it on Vali, like how a flash of lightning hits a mountain. But Vali, nothing happened to him. He quickly picked his own weapons and things and started hitting Sugriva like anything. They were fighting with such thrill that it was very, very hard to discern who's who, and such speed and such strength. All you could hear was loud noises of each other punching each other. Now, Vali is stronger than Sugriva. So within a few moments, Sugriva started becoming weaker and Vali was getting stronger and stronger. He was warming up really fast. So while Vali is hitting Sugriva and Sugriva is trying to defend himself, he's searching, where is Ramachandra? Is he going to release this arrow this time? First time he didn't, and somehow my life air was just spared. This time Vali is going to kill me. Is he anywhere there? Is he anywhere there? And he's distracted to find out if Ramachandra is going to kill him. And both of them are soaked in blood. Then Ramachandra, who's been hiding behind a tree, I noticed that Sugriva is constantly looking here and there for help. And finally, when Sugriva was in such a helpless, almost desperate situation, Ramachandra mounted an arrow on his bow and pulled the string all the way to his ear. And the moment Ramachandra pulled the string with the arrow mounted on it, it was as if devastation time had arrived. It was the time by which Vali would be finished. You know, when a person's, it's called Kala, that time of destruction, when the body is going to go away. And as soon as, because of the power of Ramachandra's bow, all the birds flew away and all the animals panicked. Like suddenly they saw something so tremendously scary and they ran away. And the clash with which Ramachandra released the arrow was like a flash of lightning that is loud, flashy, and in a moment that arrow found its mark in the chest of Vali. This is Ramachandra's perfection. In the middle of all the fighting that they're doing, that arrow found its mark in Vali's chest. And suddenly, by the arrow that Ramachandra hurled at Vali, Vali fell down as if a tree is cut down. Have you ever seen a tree being cut down? When the guy cuts it at the bottom and the whole tree just falls. And that great Vali, who had achieved some fantastic things in his life, fell down. Now, he had not died yet. He had fallen on the ground. He had fallen on the ground, and he is still not dead because he has a blessing from his father Indra, that because of that necklace that's around his neck, that his death will not come quickly. It will come slowly, but it won't come quickly. Then the Valmiki's comparison is the arrow is like the flash of anger from Lord Rudra's eyes. So Vali is now fallen on the ground like a great Ashoka tree, and that is blossomed with red flowers because his body is full of blood that has been, one, pummeled by Sugriva, but secondly, because his body is now gushing blood from Ramachandra's arrow. So we're going to pause here and come back to Vali's objections and Ramachandra's answers. Very, very significant piece when we meet next week. So let me see if you have any questions or comments on this. And I want to know, is it okay that I'm slowing it and I'm giving you the details? Usually when Vali and Sugriva fight is discussed, it's glossed over and we miss some details. Would you like these kinds of details, or would you like me to gloss over and sort of give you the storyline, or you want some details like this? I'd like to hear from you.
Please go with the details, Prabhu. It's fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Details, okay. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have one question.
Yeah.
We heard when Sugriva and Vali were fighting for the first time, Sugriva was beaten the amount of time which Lakshmana was standing. My question is, when they went second time fight, why didn't Rama kill Vali immediately?
Good question. When in a fight, the similar question is, when Nrsimhadev came out of the pillar, why did he not kill Hiranyakashipu in an instant? He was playing and fighting, and it almost sounded like play. He was enjoying the fight. Here in this case, Vali has to be convinced that he's winning. And for that, they have to first fight. It's not like as soon as he walks out of the gate, if Ramachandra shot an arrow, someone can object. Hey, how do you know? Maybe Vali is coming to tell Sugriva, you're my brother, come back home. So Vali has to demonstrate that he actually has grudge. So there has to be some fight. Otherwise, Ramachandra will be also accused of being very whimsical and not properly conducting himself.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. A thought here. When Tara was speaking to Vali, Vali's statement, like what you said now, was more of, I'm almost going to give a sound whacking, but leave him with a few breaths, which means he did not have the intention to kill him fully, but give him a very strong lesson. And when we rewind the past time a little bit further, one of the reasons why Lord Ramachandra did not kill Vali in the first instance was that between brothers, there may be some fights, give them a chance so that they don't kill each other. So that was there. But Lord Ramachandra is the supreme omniscient personality of Godhead. So he might very well be knowing that Vali did not intend to kill Sugriva even in this second encounter. So this killing of Vali was primarily enacted by the Supreme Lord so that Vali, who had a friendship with Ravana, does not become the main person who removes Ravana from the story. And Mother Sita can go there and liberate all the other Rakshasis there, and Ravana dies in the hand of Ramachandra himself. So is this the main reason why Lord Ramachandra did kill Vali the second time, although he did not have the intention? That is, Vali did not have the intention to fully kill Sugriva.
So, a couple of things. Where Vali says, I will leave a few breaths, I didn't find a verse like that, but it's in the commentaries. So that's one. Second, in the entire Valmiki Ramayana, Valmiki does not assert Ramachandra's divinity at all. Only in the subsequent retellings over the course of time, where Ramachandra's divinity is explicit front and center, not in Valmiki Ramayana. Because Valmiki is maintaining, in one sense, the spirit of Ramachandra, where he says, Atmanam Manusham Manye. And the evidence for it is, although Ramachandra is omniscient, in the previous fight, Ramachandra says, I couldn't discern between the two of you. So there is this humanness that permeates all through Ramachandra's activities, while his divinity is also there. So to say because he was omniscient and therefore, yes, it's true. It's there in the unraveling of and our analysis of the past times. But as Valmiki is narrating it, he's maintaining the spirit of Ramachandra's humanness. Now, behind all of this, because we have the support and the wisdom and the enlightenment of the great sages and commentators for thousands of years, we understand the context that he had to eliminate Vali, because Vali, although a descendant of the demigods, for the purpose of helping Ramachandra, lost his way and did not support Ramachandra. So Vali was not required for the rest of the pastime. Because, and this is a sidebar application point. Each one of us is endowed with a certain strength or gift or characteristic that has great value in the Lord's service. Can have. But if one becomes maddened by that asset, and that asset is, generally assets come from piety and liabilities come from impiety. And Kunti Devi gives us that secret. Janma Aishwarya Shruta Shri Edamana Madha Puman. Edamana means one who gets pride or value out of it, gets maddened by these things. Naiva arhati avadhatum vai tvam akinchana gochara. So such persons who are maddened by the gifts given by the Lord's system, if they are maddened by it, they cannot use it in the service of the Lord. And so the system is that one loses that entitlement, one loses one benefit, the asset, the gift becomes invaluable, becomes invalidated. So Vali is Indra's son. Indra expanded to participate in the pastimes as Vali. But he went and made friendship. This is Indra, in that sense, represents unbridled sense gratification. And Vali went and made friendship with Ravana. So such mentality has no place in Seva. So Vali is not there at all. But because he is Indra's son, Ramachandra will gift him a fantastic gift of personally pulling that arrow out and Vali gazing upon Ramachandra's lotus face while leaving his body. That much he gave, but not service. I don't know if I answered your question or sort of distracted from the whole thing.
No, more than that, Prabhu. Thank you. It was very much applicable for me. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, Ram is the...
What is your name? I'm sorry, could you tell?
I am A. Shanmugam.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Actually, the Ram is the supreme personality of God with 6 opulences. And his strength is absolute. He could have killed Vali directly. Even if Vali gets double the strength of Ram, it will not exceed the absolute strength. So he could have killed directly. Why did he kill indirectly? And get a stigma of killing him indirectly. Hare Krishna.
Indirectly meaning from hiding place?
Yeah, hiding place.
Well, the stigma is because of the common man's obstinacy. Because we will hear that Vali accuses Ramachandra very, very strongly. When we will read next week the shlokas of how horribly Vali speaks about Ramachandra, Ramachandra only smiles and gives him answers. So Vali makes 13 objections. And because he thinks very intelligent, he gives 13 objections of why he thinks Ramachandra is wrong. And Ramachandra answers all of them to such a wonderful, in such a wonderful way that Vali says, "Oh, you're right, I'm wrong. Please forgive me." This is Vali's conclusion. And Vali is the guy who actually got hit by the arrow. But all the spectators, they have their own conclusions. Oh, Ramachandra was wrong. Why should you do it from a hiding place? Why he does this? Why he does that? You know, like in India or any place, if there is an accident, in America, you don't see people gathering, but in India, for sure, when there's an accident and the two people who are involved in the accident are arguing and fighting, there is more commentary from the spectators than the actual persons who are in the accident. And when the person in the accident says, yeah, it's my fault, the others will say, why are you saying it's your fault? It's not your fault. And they get all involved. So that's from a social setting perspective. It's really not the case. Now, Ramachandra is a supreme personality of Godhead, sure. And I said, as I said to Shamakund, we are spectators of the Ramayana. Because of the commentaries of the Acharyas, we understand him to be Shad Aishwarya Purna, and so nothing can faze him. Yet, because he's also playing the part of a human being, he will only follow in a way that dharma allows him to do so. Now, let's draw the parallel between Ramachandra and Narasimhadev for a moment, and hopefully this will answer for you, Ms. Shanmugam. Narasimhadev appeared on or at the time of dusk and had Hiranyakashipu on his lap and tore him with his nails, which were not weapons. It was not on the ground, was not in the sky, was not indoors, not outdoors. It was not morning, it was not night. And by someone who's not a human being. So he was half man, half lion. He was not an animal, not a man. And preserved Lord Brahma's blessings. Although he's the Supreme Lord, full of 6 opulences, he didn't have to come out of the pillar. He's sitting in the heart, and one day Hiranyakashipu could have gotten a heart attack and just died. And the whole universe would be like, hey, thank God Hiranyakashipu died. That could have been possible. He could have appeared in some other form as the Supreme Lord himself and killed Hiranyakashipu, and nobody would object to it. But in future, everyone will lose their faith in Lord Brahma's blessings. So he preserved Lord Brahma's blessings and finished him off. Here also, there is a blessing for him. Not that Vali's necklace is going to take away Ramachandra's strength. We never consider like that. So that's not a strong answer. Yet, he preserves Brahma's blessings and Indra's blessings. And the reason he shoots from behind a tree will be justified by Ramachandra next week. So please don't miss. When we look at all the 13 objections Vali makes, and Ramachandra responds point by point to Vali's objections.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. This is Kirti. Are you able to hear, Prabhu?
Yes.
Excuse me. You were talking about Tara giving good advice to Vali and balancing out his emotional side of it. My question is, and in this case, Vali was not able to heed good advice. In my case, what can I do so I can balance both the emotional and rational sides? Sometimes there may be good advice, and I may be swept by emotion that I'm not even able to recognize the good advice.
And so at that moment, we are channeling Vali, I guess. Now, for a husband to hear his wife's advice is not easy. And in this case, actually coming from Tara, it's not easy because there is this sense of, I know better, or the advice is not good, I've thought about it. No. What's important is the person, what Tara is telling him is not heed my advice. The advice is riding on a vehicle. And the vehicle she's using is, you know that I love you. And you also, you know that I'm a good friend and I'm only thinking about your benefit. And therefore I'm giving you this advice. So the vehicle is also important. And Vali accepted that, oh yes, you have great regard for me, but how can I not take the challenge? So what's important is when someone gives us some advice, especially let's say our spouse, in this case, you're talking and I'm talking, so we say wife, it takes something as a man to, now this is also applicable to the women or wives, so not just one-sided, but we're talking when some good advice comes to us, it's important to take it, or at least acknowledge that I heard this, and go through the exercise of, is there wisdom in it? Plus recognizing that my emotions are very heightened at this point. And the third aspect is long term. Think beyond the situation, how my life will look like, my relationships will look like after this. And that comes when there is a thrust of goodness. So good advice generally brings or invokes the mode of goodness. A highly emotional situation is coming from passion and ignorance. And blocking good advice is part of the tamas in it. Now, so it's not a sudden mechanical thing that, oh, advice come here. We are all driven by the modes of nature, like anything. So unless there is, practice for all of us is, as practitioners of bhakti, is to recognize at that moment how we are being influenced by a particular guna. In fact, if you want to hear a tongue-in-cheek, then that when there are Rajoguna and Tamoguna, they withdraw, they take away all the actual gunas, the qualities. So one guna eclipses another. So it's unless one acts from or becomes situated in sattva guna, one cannot. Even if 100 people are saying, one cannot take on that advice. So the responsibility lies squarely with us or me to be situated in or to be moving towards the mode of goodness minimally. All right.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Anything final? Otherwise, we'll end.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisance.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, so just on the note, the question asked by a devotee Narhari Prabhu, that why Lord Ramchandra didn't kill, why he didn't kill Vali at first. So just another thought just came that it might be that it might be just a speculation from my side that he wanted to churn the mood of surrender, want to heighten the mood of surrender for Sugriva while he was in fight with Vali, or desperately looking for him, for Lord Ramchandra, where he is desperately. So it is like one of the ways to look at things. Or I'm just thinking of.
Point. No, it's an excellent point. Excellent point. Thank you. Excellent point. So let's massage that a little bit more. Why did Krishna not show up when Draupadi was being dragged into the assembly? Why did Krishna not even stop Dushasana from entering Draupadi's quarters? But she was pulled, she was humiliated, her sari was being pulled. Still, Krishna didn't intervene until a particular point. Hiranyakashipu was torturing Prahlad Maharaj, threw him into a vat of oil, under mad elephants, into a pit of snakes, threw him from a mountain top. Yet Narasimhadev did not appear to finish Hiranyakashipu. It only came at a certain point. Because in all of this, the shelter-taking aspect of these devotees is being glorified and heightened. Sugriva, while he's being beaten, is searching for Ramachandra. That searching is a quiet call for help. It's a quiet appeal for the Lord's mercy. Because when we are in situations of life and being beaten by whatever conditions of life, Vali, because he's Indra's son, represents how our senses are crushing us. This quiet call or appeal for Ramachandra's grace is important. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Was an excellent point. Okay, we'll end today, and we look forward to seeing all of you next week. Tomorrow, I don't know about people in India, it'll be 4 o'clock in the morning, but it'll be on YouTube, so you can watch later if you like. As part of the Sunday feast, we are Jyotirmaya, Sachisuta, myself, and a couple of others are narrating the entire section of Ramayana that leads up to the marriage of Ramachandra and Sita Devi. So we'll go through the event. What? Music. It has music, singing of the verses. It's set to ragas. Jyotirmaya has picked select ragas that will accentuate the mood of the verses, and we hope the live broadcast works well. But that's and there will be visual presentations, meaning slides with the verses that the team is prepared. So we're looking forward to it. If you can join, great. Otherwise, I can send you a link later. If you have a time, it will be an hour and a half presentation. So please give us your blessings, because without the blessings of Vaishnavas, nothing is achievable or even possible. Thank you, and see you next week. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.